Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan, and look, it's Austin the Day Ghost.
How's it going? Oh, I gotta fix my screen. There we go.
Oh, yeah, well done. It's funny you mentioned that because I'm already having some lag and stuff, apparently, so I might have to stop screen sharing with you, so you might not be able to see my face anymore anyway, or faces anymore anyway.
Well, because I always zoom in so that, like, it's just, oh, yeah, now it's gone.
Now it's gone.
But, yeah, it was off, so it was just like your forehead I was looking at, and I was like, oh, I gotta fix this, but it's gone anyways.
Hey,
it doesn't even matter.
Let's do it how we felt about on something that somebody might care about. Let's see. Austin and I are trying to catch up a little bit on the Tomorrowverse and recent DC direct-to-video animated movies. I'm very, very behind on these. I had a long-standing tradition with Eric when he was on the channel to review each of these when they came out, and we stopped somewhere around Long Halloween, and I just haven't gotten back to these. And so Austin is going to try to do as many of these as we find time for and can stomach. And then eventually we'll catch up and tackle Crisis when all of those come out. And I'm wondering if the way to do Crisis, I mean, having not seen the first part yet, and I don't know like how meaty that is. I don't know how much stuff is in it. It might make sense to watch all three of those together and just do the sign flip.
I'm thinking it might, because originally the plan was just catch up all of them, like all the way to Werewolf.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, that probably is what we should have done.
It probably is. My worry, because of how long we tend to talk about stuff, my worry was if we tried to do that, it was going to be like a 5-hour video.
Mm-hmm.
Because having not seen these, I don't know how substantial any of them are. I don't know what's in them. We might have a lot to say about one of them, which ends up being like an hour, and then all the others, And also, the problem with watching them all in close proximity, going the other way, is if we had the experience with them that I think both of us had with these, they would all run together. We wouldn't remember anything. We wouldn't be able to. Ironically, we would have like a half hour on like 9 movies.
Yeah, it's fine. But we should probably, for the next one, do everything past Hunted through Warworld, and then the 3 Crisis and Watchmen as one.
as like one podcast.
Yeah, it was like those are like the 2-parter. We have through Warworld as one video, and then the last 5.
See, it's also for me just more of an issue of how much time I have in a week to watch stuff, because I'm afraid if we did that, or if we did, like 4 or 5 at a time, it'd take me 2 or 3 weeks to watch them, and then by the time we sat down, I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess I watched that. I don't remember what happened in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, we're going to play this by ear and tackle these whenever we get around to it, but I'm hoping it won't take too long for us to finish them up. Austin and I, for this one, watched Justice Soceity World War II and Catwoman Hunted. Again, these are not related in that they're not in the same continuity, and actually, I don't think anybody working on one worked on the other. I know Catwoman Hunted was directed by a Japanese anime director and is kind of like an American Japanese anime hybrid thing.
It was written by Greg Weisman.
Yeah, which you can both tell and not tell all at the same time. It's not his best work or anything, but like maybe some of his hallmarks are in there. He also had this weird cryptic soundbite at some point where he suggested that it was supposed to be like I don't know what this even means, adjacent to Young Justice.
Oh, I saw that about, was it his Green Arrow short? There's like something else he did that I saw him say that about.
It's like he desperately wants everything he does to be connected somehow. Yeah, where he's like, some of the events in this sort of happen there, but it's not in the same continuity, so I don't know what the point of even saying that is, but okay.
Yeah, weird. I don't know.
But anyway, so these are just the next 2 that I had not seen yet. Austin actually saw Justice Soceity shortly after it came out, or I guess, a year ago?
Yeah, like a year or 2 ago, I think. Maybe closer to 2 now.
and neither of us had talked about it. And Hunted, neither of us had seen. Sandwiched in between that is Long Halloween, both parts, which again I have talked about already, and remember liking just fine. And I remember liking the ending of that better than the book. So it improved on things a little bit too, which was great.
Mm-hmm. No, it does absolutely.
Austin and I are also both big fans of the first movie in this continuity, or in the Justice Society continuity, which is Superman: Man of Tomorrow. And we're very excited about more stuff in this continuity. And then we kind of fell off of it. And then I heard a lot of not great things, so I couldn't get excited about coming back to it. But Justice Society is the second in that continuity, and kind of an odd choice for the very next thing that you're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my whole thing with the direct to DVD DC movies is if you count two-parters as like one, there's like 7 good movies in this entire line from the start, and the rest is like complete trash. You can throw it all away.
I think
Uh,
it's a little better than that. I think there's a few kind of mediocre, fun to put on in the background kind of movies, but a lot of them, and some of it is what you count too, right? Because like a lot of them are, a lot of the ones I really enjoy are the kind of standalone ones that are Elseworldsy,
mm,
as opposed to the
yeah.
in continuity ones. And some of them are direct to video and animated, but aren't on like the list of those. So it's like, does Batman Ninja count? Because like that movie's fun, et
Mm,
cetera, et cetera.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, so when they started the Tomorrowverse, because the New 52 one was absolutely terrible, and we started with Man of Tomorrow, which I really liked, and then they did, it wasn't connected, but they did Soul of the Dragon next, which I thought was okay.
It's fine, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine. And then I liked their Long Halloween, and I skipped this at the time, but I was like, oh, okay, we're clearly in some sort of renaissance where their bad ones are fine. So
So yeah, that's nice. At least
it's looking really good
at
for
least you can
them.
tolerate the ones that aren't, great. Like it's not a giant waste of your time anyway. One
So yeah,
thing that these that I've
that's
seen
really
so
good.
far are nailing that the New 52 continuity did not nail is at least like there's a consistent within each piece like tone and atmosphere that kind of sweeps you up and is kind of fun.
Yeah, like they're not the exact same, I guess.
Well, they're not the exact same, and there's not a house style that I don't like.
There
Because
is for animation, which I don't like because
yeah,
even Man of Tomorrow, like and Long Halloween, like they all look like they're episodes of Archer, like in their animation.
I don't like
It's
the thick black lines around all the faces, and I
mhm.
didn't remember it being that bad in Man of Tomorrow, but I haven't seen that in a couple of years. That was distracting for me with Justice Society.
Yeah, no, all that stuff looks like that, and it's the animation's not great, but it's if the movie is good, then whatever, it's fine.
I for a live how he felt about it's really surprising to have almost no audience tonight, and and I think that's a testament to how no one really cares about these anymore. And so maybe you're right. Maybe we should just do a podcast on like 12 of these all at one time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. 'Cause nobody cares. We're all ready for this to end.
Yeah, we're doing this very obligatorily. I'm also gonna try to finally do Aquaman 2 soon, and I'm curious to see who shows up for that.
Well, I can get it for free at home now, so maybe. But I also don't know if I want to watch Aquaman 2.
Oh, we'll have a conversation about that later. Then Connor's gonna try to maybe do that with me. We haven't set a date yet, so we'll see when that happens. But he saw it, and so I'm like, okay, I'll finally go see. It is playing at one theater near me still. Hayden Spring says I'm here and I'm important. No, thanks for being here and supporting us, Hayden. I appreciate you, buddy. This is not me lambasting the audience for not showing up. This is me saying, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, well, I'm also not saying these movies are awful. But like, yeah, like I just think this line is very much like people are indifferent
It's
on it.
yeah, definitely. It's shocking how long this has gone. And I realized that, like,
Absolutely.
for a long time, there wasn't a continuity, or there were, like, a couple of very short splintered continuities with a bunch of, other movies that weren't connected. And then we had a continuity, and then we have now a rebooted continuity. But this line has been going since 2007,
But I
and
feel like
there's
the
only
Killing
finally
Joke.
now talk about ending it. And that's only because Gunn came in and wants to do animated things connected to what he's doing. Like, if Gunn hadn't taken over, I bet this either goes on forever, or Safran just or not Saffron, Zaslav just shuts down, like, DC animation entirely. One of those two things would happen.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that because I was about to say I feel like the Killing Joke kind of killed this line for a lot of people, and that was kind of like the last time it really had any spotlight. Where
Yeah,
people are
because
like, oh, this is like a big moment. They're doing the Killing Joke, and then it's never gone up to that again. Like even when they did Long Halloween, like it
yeah,
didn't have the like amount of press and hype as that did.
that wasn't the big deal it should have been. It'll be interesting to see if anybody cares about another Watchmen adaptation, like in 2D animation in this line.
Yeah, like maybe that can kind of bump them up again in that same place.
Yeah, because I don't think Crisis is going to.
No.
And you can't tell me that without Gunn, Zaslav, like, the more I'm thinking about it, it would have just been shut down. It's kind of surprising that it lasted as long as it did. Because, like, you think of all the projects that he shelved, and it's like, these things only make like $500,000.
Well, that's why I just imagine they would eventually just be shut down because they don't really turn a giant profit or anything. Like it's
Yeah.
just a thing that like you said, is just obligatory at this point. Like it's just they've been doing it and they're still doing it.
Anyway, we're stalling. Let's
Yeah,
finally.
we're talking about things that are more interesting, which is just nobody cares.
This quote unquote review has been going for 12 minutes. We've said nothing about these movies yet. Okay, so don't expect a great deal of professionalism this evening. Austin and I are going to flip our signs for these two films. We're going to start with Catwoman Hunted, just because Austin and I both watched this first. It is the second of these that was made, but again, these are not related or in continuity with each other, so it doesn't really matter how we talk about them. And Austin, why don't you give us just a real quick rundown of what happens in this movie? We're not going to worry too much about spoilers tonight. I don't think people are going to really care all that much if we spoil stuff. But anyway, but we also will probably talk kind of overviewy. We're not going to get real in the weeds with these. So anyway, Austin, would you give us a synopsis real quick, and then we'll do best thing, worst thing, and sign flip like we always do.
Yeah, so Catwoman Hunted is a small Catwoman like heist adventure about this green gem. Was it like the Cat's Eye? I think it's called.
Yeah,
Cat's Eye
the Cat's Eye Emerald, which is, I want to say, an artifact in animated series. Maybe I know it shows up at least one other place.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that's kind of come up here and there.
There's definitely a lot of referencey things in this movie.
Yeah, and it's kind of tied into. I'm trying to think what the villain, Leviathan, I think is what it's called, the Grant Morrison
Yes.
thing. Yes, I was like, my mind's going to Legion. I'm like, it's not Legion because it's Legion of Superheroes, but it's something. It starts with an L, Leviathan, and Catwoman gets caught up with Batwoman, my bae, and they go on this adventure together, and then it's kind of just action after that. But it's like kind of like it's like part spy movie, part like thief movie, just that kind of a thing. There's some Mission Impossible to it.
Yep. And it kind of tries to play as a classic superhero team up with Batwoman.
Yeah, exactly, and it's very. I don't know if you've seen this, Cap, but for people my age, like it's very Totally Spies. That show.
Oh
Both
no,
in
I've
its
not seen that.
Yeah, like that show is basically like an animated Charlie's Angels, and this isn't as silly as that is, but like it reminded me a lot of that.
You know what it reminded me of a little bit, and I wouldn't have been able to say this even 6 months ago. It reminded me a little bit of Lupin the Third.
You know what? It's funny is I had the exact same thought at the start, and then I looked up the director, and he was an additional director on 2 Lupin movies.
See, I figured there had to be some direct inspiration with this, and of course, it's also like anime style. It's anime
Yeah,
in the same way that some like Netflix shows and movies are anime, where like it's got an American script, like we said with Greg Weisman, and some other Americans are working on it, but it is I'm sure like a Japanese house and a Japanese art director.
that's where I got the Totally Spies thing from. Like that's very much the look of that show.
Okay.
And the big thing I was like, oh, this is like Totally Spies but without the kind of weird pervy things in it. Oh, never mind.
Yes. Well, so now that you've gone to that place, let's go ahead and do best thing, worst thing in Sign Flip. I'll be real quick with mine. Can I start?
Yeah, of course.
I
So I got to think of a worse thing. So.
Okay, because I wanted to piggyback off of what you said when you were talking about the first 20 minutes, and then it kind of just turns into like action scene after action scene. Very very simple best thing, worst thing for me. The best thing is the first 20 minutes, and the worst thing is the last 60 minutes.
Okay, there you go.
That's it. Very 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 easy to do. And because of that, I feel like I have to say not feeling it, because you're only talking about like 30% of your movie I really, really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
I really kind of wanted and I never want to rewrite a movie or anything. I really kind of wanted the whole thing to just be that opening scene stretched as far as they could stretch it. Because I loved like just how long that went, and I just would have been fine with like more and more and more of it. With like Catwoman's trying to steal something, and then there's and then she grabs it, and she's being chased on the road, and I kind of wanted the cat and mouse thing to keep going, and like it sort of
Do
does.
like a Mad Max thing.
Yeah, like it sort of does, but I didn't want it to stop. Like I didn't really want a time jump. As soon as we got a time jump, I got bored, and it just kind of became a kind of who's who of random like C and D list DC heroes and villains that you may or may not be familiar with. Like a lot of these sometimes kind of degenerate into, especially now, where it seems like we're going into a Rolodex of what characters have we not adapted yet, and then sometimes which ones are we so obsessed with we can't stop adapting.
Well, I think what it is more so is it's like a mix of you roll a d20. Okay, this is the character we're pulling out of nowhere. For whatever reason, Black Mask is just the villain that we go to when it's a female team up thing now. I don't know who decided that, but okay,
that's true, because Birds of Prey also did that, and this feels
2 doesn't
oddly inspired by that
pattern, but
and this only was made a couple years after that.
Mm-hmm. And the third type of villain is just cat villain, because we keep doing that.
Yeah, and because it's Catwoman and we're wanting to spotlight female characters, we try to come up with a number of, like female bad guys to throw in, which is fine. There's just too many of them. It's just
well, a lot of that fits into the cat thing.
Fight after fight after fight.
Cat who's female and Cheetah.
No, that's true too. It's like female cat villains and then Talia.
Yes.
Because it's Leviathan.
Yeah.
So you have to have a League of Assassins in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, the woman who played Catwoman in this movie was Talia from unless I'm mixing it up. No, sorry, Wonder Woman in our next movie. See, these movies are already so like blend together. Because I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. So never mind, discard that. We'll get that.
No, that's fine.
The next movie. But
I did think she was great though.
No, I thought the voice cast in general was really good. And I was kind of shocked by how many like people I recognized in the cast list.
Yeah, it's a fun like assortment.
So I would say that's my best thing. My best thing is probably the cast. I thought it's really good. My worst thing is your best and worst thing. I would say is just structure. And
Yep.
I didn't hate the last 60 minutes like you did.
I didn't hate it. It was just easy to put it in there like that, right? Where like I was really into those first 20 minutes and then I kind of fell off after that.
I feel like the last 60 minutes is sporadically interesting, where I'm like, okay, like I'm kind of with this moment, I'm kind of with that moment,
The problem is
and
I
then
didn't care about the bad guys.
yeah, and some of that stuff just goes on too long. Like we get kind of locked into an action scene with villains that I don't care about and aren't really interesting.
Yeah, didn't it feel sort of like a video game?
A little bit, yeah.
And like too much like one, but I wasn't prepared for that because the first 20
Well,
minutes did not feel that way to me. Where
I
that
would say
felt like
because
a
you also
classic heist
mentioned,
movie.
yeah, and you also mentioned the classic comic team up thing. That's the structure too. Is it's very much that kind of like your single issue. Like these two heroes are gonna team up and take on this like group of villains.
Yeah, and I mean, I only watched this the one time, but I remember thinking, when we have the big time skip toward the end and we bring Batwoman back, that seemed a little bit too easy that she was there again. But
Hmm. Oh,
I don't know if that's fair, on a second viewing.
my other thing is when I was watching it, I was like, "This is fine. This is fun." There is a slight part of me that was like, I kind of wish this was just a Secret Six movie and we leaned into the heist thing and did it with like a full
Yeah.
team as opposed to just Catwoman and Batwoman.
But then at the same time, it is nice to get kind of a singular character piece. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want to say character piece like we really explore her. That like the characterization is great. I like don't get me wrong, but it's not like it's this real deep character study or anything.
No, and I
But
mean that's most of these movies.
sure, but like I'm right. So you kind of hold it to the standard that they've set. Like that's totally
Yeah.
fair. I think the story and character arc in the second movie we're going to talk about is a little bit deeper than that, which is
Mhm.
nice. But
Yeah.
with this, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be hypocritical. I'm constantly complaining that all we do with superhero movies these days is make them like team movies and team setup movies. So it's kind of nice that this didn't do that. But I hear what you're saying with Secret Six. It's kind of rare to have one of these where it feels like they're stretching to 80 minutes. Usually, it's an idea that's truncated too much, and this
Mhm.
has the opposite problem.
Well, I think the thing that I liked about it was, I guess that it was just very like animation focused. Like this looks better than a lot of their movies do.
It looks great.
Like there's obviously places where I'm like, okay, this is kind of where you're cheaping out a little bit, so you can have like the better moments. But most of these movies don't have those better moments. So like I did really appreciate that.
No, and I thought the style fit the idea and the type of movie that they were
Absolutely.
making really, really well. So it didn't feel like anime for no good reason. And so
Absolutely.
immediately, because I'm not a big anime guy, of course, I've been won over a lot more on it the last few years, and so I don't immediately look at anime style and go, I don't want to look at this.
Well,
I maybe once did, but with this, there was no place where I was, taken out by that and going like, why isn't this just an American looking thing? Like it felt like an anime.
mhm. But I think it helps too, where it's you kind of look at the other movies they're making around it too, and like I said, the Tomorrowverse is very like Archer looking, like just in the big black lines, and like it's very stiff. Like there's not a lot of movement, and
Yeah,
when you see this, I'm like, okay, there's a lot more flow to the action. Like it's a lot more enjoyable to watch.
yeah, it's fluid, it's exciting.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
really know how to do that stuff.
Hmm.
And it is very action focused. Like it's much more about that than it is about like telling any real story. But I love the simplicity of the heist stuff at the beginning. For that kind of style. So I didn't need it to turn into and I don't mean to say that it gets real convoluted and like overly complicated or anything, but I didn't need it to turn into a I don't know.
Beat 'em up.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liked the end with Cheetah, where it kind of turns into like a horror runaway from the villain thing. I thought some of that was fun, but it's mainly when they break into the Leviathan base or whatever, where they're bringing in Black Mask, where I feel like the action kind of drags.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Is I just didn't need it to be like a big tear down the big evil organization movie. It got too big for my taste. I was liking the smaller, intimate thing at the beginning, and even if it was, oh no, you broke into Like you stuck your head where it doesn't belong. You didn't realize just how big the thing was you were uncovering. It still could have been smaller.
Well, I think the best thing it should have done is it should have been there's this big like grand where we got to take down this like giant group of villains, but our main character is Catwoman, who just
Yeah.
wants the gem. So like all of that's kind of happening in the background, but she's very much like I'm gonna steal my thing. Um, I think that is probably what they should have leaned into more so.
Well, and that's what was disappointing about it for me because I thought that's what it was at the beginning,
Hmm.
and then it turned into a much more noble, altruistic thing.
Yeah.
And that being, I guess that being part of her motivation for doing it in the first place is okay. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I think I would have just appreciated it more if it was a cat and mouse thing where there was like one major kind of fun villain that was chasing her,
Hmm.
and maybe she can fight a bunch of foot soldiers.
Yeah, because I do
You
think
know,
this movie
but
kind of struggles to nail down who its main villain is through a lot of it, where it just keeps throwing bad guys at you, and it's like, oh, the villain's gonna be Black Mask. Oh no, it's kind of Tobias Whale. Oh no, it's Talia or Cheetah. Or, like I feel like it's kind of bouncing back and forth, which you can do, um, but like you said, I think it just kind of loses focus to a degree, and it could have been tighter.
well, yeah, it makes me feel like I myself am a cat, and they just keep putting like a ball of string in front of my face, like a new different color of ball of string every so often, where it's like, you're bored with Tobias Whale, well here comes Cheetah. Oh, you're bored with Cheetah, well here comes, the big Talia reveal at the end, which was not at all surprising. Especially, this movie does have that problem, and it's a bit of a catch-22. I get it. Of is it for an audience that is already really familiar with source material, or for an audience that doesn't know anything about this stuff? Because for initiated people, you hear Leviathan and okay, Talia al Ghul is probably involved with that, right?
Mhm.
Because
Well, I'm gonna say it with this one specifically. I think
and same thing with, but I was just saying, especially, and same thing with Cheetah, because they kind of treat Cheetah like a reveal. But if you know anything about Wonder Woman, you know who Minerva is.
Mhm. So I'm gonna come to the movie's defense. I'm gonna white
Sure.
knight this movie a little bit. I think
I don't even
with
know how
the
I feel about that. I just
yeah, no, of course. I think with the Leviathan, they're probably thinking, okay, the person that's probably gonna watch this is somebody that goes, oh, like I like Catwoman, I like Batman, I like that kind of stuff. Um, but there's going to be a lot of that group that maybe just hasn't read the Grant Morrison stuff, that doesn't know Leviathan. Like that's obscure enough that I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm sure there's a lot of people who watched this that didn't know that.
ironic they adapted that here and not in their New 52 continuity.
I know, right? The Minerva thing I thought was okay because their cheetah was like a giant werewolf
Yeah,
cheetah, so
yeah.
it was like she was different enough that it was worth the payoff.
Okay,
Um,
that's fair.
where it was like, okay, this isn't exactly where I thought we were gonna go with Cheetah, so that's fine.
How did you feel about the altruistic motivation? Where like she doesn't go there just because she wants the emerald. It's at least in part because she's trying to stop human trafficking.
I mean, that's very Catwoman. Catwoman-y. We do a lot of that stuff with like the kind of basic rights or like animal rights or human rights things with her,
Well,
where
that's true.
there's like a certain level she won't go past.
Yeah.
So that's fine with me. It's that kind of thief with the heart of gold thing that Catwoman has kind of become, and you can take that too far, and I think stuff like that is fine.
Yeah, and she's like Batman in that she's that character that refuses to change and is very stubborn.
Yeah, exactly. And she hates being called Cat, which is for different reasons, but yes. I don't have to hear the cat and the bat ever again. Thank you.
Yeah, that made her feel very Tom King inspired though, where it's like if this was a Batman story, you would have heard them calling each other that back and forth the whole movie.
That is true, but I can wipe that away from my mind, Cap. It's not in the movie.
I didn't understand why she called Batwoman Bat at the end.
Mm.
when she doesn't like being called Cat, and that seems to be
But
like her and
it's her
Batman's
character arc.
thing.
They became friends, so she was willing to.
Okay, but they didn't become lovers, and the Bat-Cat thing seems to be very intimate to her. So I thought that was weird.
We never got another bath scene, Cap. You never know.
That's true. We didn't. Well, that's the elephant in the room for the 3 other people that watched this movie, I'm sure. What'd you think of that whole thing?
So, I'm watching this movie, and it's just like regular like action movie.
Yeah.
And then my grandma walks in exactly on
I knew you were gonna
that
say that.
scene,
I knew you were gonna say
and
somebody
it's just-
walked in.
and it's just standing there, and I'm like, I look like a pervert. And then stayed there through like most of that scene.
Somebody
and then-
looks like a pervert with this movie. I don't think it's you.
And then walked away like right when it was, like they were like nose to nose, and it was like getting real steamy.
Literally steamy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, and then finally she left. But I was like, it was like when I finally watched Toxic Avenger, she walked in like right on the first sex scene, and then just periodically you could hear moaning because that movie has a lot of sex scenes. So I was like, yeah, that's not a great look, but whatever.
Yeah. It was awkward. It made me uncomfortable. It felt like a little gratuitous and also like sort of obligatory, where you had to have that. You had to have that moment where we call like massive attention to the fact that Batwoman is a lesbian. I mean, I like that. It's not the whole movie. I like that because I thought that scene was going to go in a very different direction. Like, I guess I appreciate that we didn't have to like change Catwoman's sexuality just because Batwoman is in the movie, and I like that it's either ambiguous or she's definitely still straight, but she is fine seducing anybody she has to seduce.
Well,
I'm fine not knowing. I'm fine either way.
That's what I was gonna say. Is the thing that
it didn't feel out of character. Like, it was awkward, but it didn't feel out of character for her to do that.
No, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is just Catwoman. Her character is the seductress, so I thought that was fine.
Yeah. I'm not sure I totally buy that Catwoman would think Batwoman would buy her advances.
Well, I mean, she's the seductress. She had to try.
Okay, fair enough.
And it worked. She pulled Batwoman's red wig off to reveal her red hair.
That's true.
Which was the best part of the movie.
I don't know. It's funny because it is a very eye candy kind of movie, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is in a long-standing
like
anime tradition.
That was very totally Spies to me, but yeah, and just very anime in general.
So, like I said, a little gratuitous. I didn't find it like super offensive or anything, but there's definitely places where I'm like, I don't know, Greg Weisman. Like, you're starting to look a little bit like Bruce Timm to me.
I had the Bruce Timm thought. I was like, who wrote this? Paul Dini? Oh, no, it's Greg Weisman.
I think the script is kind of a little overwrought. Like, it's very punny and one-linery and like a little too over the top with some of that stuff for the kind of material that it is, I think. Like, you expect some quips and stuff in a superhero thing, but I just thought in places it was kind of trying too hard. If I had done a different best thing, worst thing, my worst thing would have been banter. I thought the Batwoman and banter was not great.
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of fine. There was moments where it worked and moments where it didn't. But it's really just leaning into that kind of adventure movie feel.
You definitely liked this better than I did, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine.
The soundtrack is rocking.
It's got like a nice jazz score.
Really great jazz score. If that was available on vinyl, I would consider picking it up. Would not be a bad background jazz album to put on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I thought the score really fit with that the tone that they were going for.
Before we move on to the next one, we should also mention, or I want to mention, the couple of voices that I was really excited to hear here. I can't get away from Keith David right now. He's showing up in everything, and I'm supposed to go to a convention he's going to be at in a month, so he's even going to show up like physically in real life in my life, hopefully.
But his voice is so weird in this because they brought in Keith David just to be like, "Rah, rah." I'm Tobias Whale.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, weird.
Well, to your point about us kind of bouncing around with villains, like at first I was like, well, why wouldn't you just make him Black Mask? Because I figured it was going to be like a Black Mask movie. And then Tobias Whale gets probably 3 times the lines that Black Mask gets.
Well, and then I had a thing with that Cap, which is that this is Greg Weisman, who of course we know did Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yep.
Where Keith David, of course, played Tombstone.
Yeah.
And Tobias Whale, when you look at him in the comics, is kind of like that gray, like big gray guy, like Tombstone in that.
That's true.
But for some reason, they just made him a giant white man.
I don't know why they did that.
It was like the design was off. Like it was like Greg Weisman wrote him to look like comic book Tobias Whale, but then whoever came up with the designs didn't go with that.
It's
that
almost like they cast him at the last minute or something. Because Keith David has that voice that definitely transcends race, where he can totally play like a big giant scary like white guy, I guess. But I kind of wonder if they would have designed him that way if they knew who was going to voice him too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's possible. That was my conspiracy theory, was that Greg Weisman wrote him wanting to be Keith David, but also thinking he would be a different design.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, the cast is crazy though, because you have him, you have Jonathan Banks as Black Mask. I can't remember who he is, but Jonathan Frakes is there.
Well, that was the other thing I was going to mention. Yeah, so the male Interpol agent in this is Jonathan Frakes.
Oh, okay.
And it's Frakes in his 60s trying to do like a 25, 30-year-old man. And I mean, he sounds fine. It's just I haven't heard him voice somebody that young in a long time.
Yeah, somehow I missed that was Frakes, but I'll have to listen back to it.
So when he first comes in, I had this moment of a different sort of recognition where I was like, it sounds like somebody is really hard trying to do an Adam West. And then I hear more of his performance, and it's Frakes, and I'm going, well, here's a thought I'd never had before. Now I'm starting to think that if he really wanted to, Jonathan Frakes could come in and voice 60s Batman.
Oh, there you go. That'd be interesting.
I kind of think he could maybe nail that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about this ever since Adam West died. Like, if you wanted to try to do more 60s Batman animation, who would be the guy to replace him? I've never had an answer for that.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's Jonathan... yeah, this is Jonathan Banks. Was that not one of the actors you picked up on?
No.
Oh, okay, interesting. That's the one guy from Breaking Bad.
No, I just wanted to mention Frakes. Yeah, no, I didn't pick up on that being who that was.
Yeah, I mean, he's got like 3 lines.
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard him in other stuff. Like, I think he's done some voice work.
Yeah, he's Gordon in Arkham Knight.
Oh, that's right. Yep, that's what I was thinking of. If he had more to do, I probably would have picked it up, because he's not going to modulate his voice. He's just going to sound like himself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I also, pardon me, always forget what that actor's name is, so I didn't even think about it in the credits either. Now, if it had said Airman Trout, sure, but
yeah, and I recognize Batwoman. I'm trying to think what her name is. I think it's like Stephanie Bellatrix, something like that.
Bellatrix.
Something, I don't know. I can't remember what her last name is. I'm sorry. It's something along those lines.
Harry Potter villain.
Yeah, the Harry Potter villain. It's something like that. I can't remember. That was like the only thing I knew about this movie going in, was that she was Batwoman. But yeah, it's full of people. And Keith David also plays a demon at one point, which is weird because I was like, oh, that's just his regular Keith David voice.
It was obvious that, yeah, because Keith David is one of those voice actors that has very, very subtle differences between his characters. Like, you could always tell it's him, and he's not doing voices.
It's like John DiMaggio is like that. I love John DiMaggio, but you can always tell which characters he's playing.
Yeah, but the difference with Keith David is he doesn't try to mask his voice at all. Like, it's almost like he wants you to know it's him. And I don't know if that's true with DiMaggio.
Whale, where he was going like,
that's just him being a little growlier than usual. But yeah, when I meet him, I've got like 15 different things I want to talk to him about. I don't know what I'm going to ask him.
Just don't waste your time with Keith David asking him about Catwoman Hunted.
He won't even remember he was in it.
He'll be like, who? Anyways, move along.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so how did you flip your sign?
I guess very light green. Like, this is, I think, very much like a 3 out of 5 kind of movie. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, and my red's pretty light. Like, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where
I
it's
wouldn't
just,
mind
like,
watching this again if somebody
content.
else wanted to put it on, but like, it kind of lost me. I got bored with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure.
I also really enjoyed, I should mention this real quick, I also really enjoyed the fight at the beginning with all the thugs that were in, like, Justice League cosplay.
Or yeah, no, all of that was really cool.
Or, like, different DC character cosplay. That's a fun way to establish that you're in a larger continuity without having a bunch of, different superhero characters there.
Catwoman's costume for that party was just the original 40s Catwoman costume. That was cool.
That was a classy throwback thing, and sometimes we overdo that, and it gets kind of like when Tom King did that in his Batman run. It would sometimes be a little bit perplexing, where you're like, I mean, I get that Batman and Catwoman have a long history together, but in actual, like, comic book time or like an actual internal logic time, it can't be more than, I don't know, 8 or 10 years. Like, they don't look like they're more than like 35 at the very oldest. So how many costumes could she possibly have had, right?
But
we have one. When you just go, oh, this is a classic, it's a throwback, she used to wear this a lot of years ago, and you don't show any other ones, it works fine.
See, I don't have that. My issue with the Tom King thing is that Catwoman remembers their meeting as the original 40s one, and Batman remembers it as year one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get it. Like, I get comics are weird. We've had different continuities and stuff. You don't really need to draw attention to it. I don't know. Like, it was too cutesy, I think, for me.
That
was my only issue with that.
But no, that was it was cool to see that in animation. It looked great.
Yeah, and I liked her lines where she comes in with that, and she's like, I like the classics. You can't go wrong with that. And then when she puts it on her regular suit, she's like, but I also like to keep it modern, or something like that.
Well, and yeah, and I'll also say, at no point in this movie was I really missing Batman.
Yeah, and I never had that.
And I like that. Batwoman like is a different character, and they don't like have her full on replace Batman. That was kind of my worry. That's where we were going with it. Mm-hmm. Whereas gonna be like, oh, we have Batwoman here, so like Catwoman doesn't need Batman anymore. I was a little concerned we were gonna go that direction with it.
Well, I was just glad because Batwoman always gets the short stick on adaptation.
Yeah,
and I was like, yeah, Batwoman's pretty good in this.
No, she's fine in this, and like you said, the whole cast is pretty good. So like I liked the choice there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an actress from Brooklyn Nine-Nine that I know. So I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's cool. Well, you want to go on to the other movie we're going to talk about?
Yes, sir. How did you feel about Justice Society, World War II?
Well, I'll tell you in a moment, but first you have to tell us what happens in it.
Okay. So the Flash.
Do you remember what happens in it?
Yes, I've seen this movie twice, and yet somehow a lot of it's still leaving me. But let's go. So Barry Allen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be a jerk for a minute before we move on. I may be the only person that has this. I might be off in left field. I'm so done with Solomon Grundy.
Yeah.
I could not be more done with Solomon Grundy at this point. I don't know what it is with these animated movies that can't get away from him, or at least I feel like that. Maybe he's only in like 3.
I
But
was gonna say I don't even know what I've seen him in.
every time he shows up, I'm like, okay, we gotta do this again.
What's he been in the last decade besides like Arkham City?
I think there's, like I said, some of these animated movies like to do big fights with him like that.
He's in Long Halloween, but he's in the books, so like that's fair.
Sure, that's fair. I can't remember exactly which ones, and I'm probably over.
When you've seen more of these than I have, like there's a dropping off
Sure.
point where I leave the New 52 movies and don't look at them again. So
And he's in Gotham.
yeah, but that's awesome because he shot Azrael with a rocket launcher. Even though that's before he becomes Solomon Grundy, I can still say that.
I can't bring up Gotham without you talking about Azrael getting shot with a rocket
because
launcher.
it's like the only good and funny moment in that show. It's awesome. The rest of that show's boring. But
anyway,
great.
but no, I think the exciting bad stuff's crazy things happen after that. Season 3 is where it's at with Gotham. Justice Society, World War II.
Yeah, so Barry Allen, he's in love with he's in love with the Flash.
He's in love with the Flash. He loves himself.
In love with Iris West, and then he gets caught up in an adventure with Superman from Man of Tomorrow, where they're fighting Brainiac, who's attacking, and then Brainiac's gonna kill Superman with a
not to be confused with Brainiac attacks.
Exactly. So Superman, the Flash is to catch this kryptonite bullet. God, my names are all over the place. And he ends up going back in time and kind of like a Flashpoint-y thing, not like Flashpoint, but kind of like how the Flash movie does it, which we're gonna do like another kind of time travel thing where he ends up somewhere else, and it's another world.
It's like Flashpoint meets Star Trek 09.
Sure, yeah. So the Flash ends up in World War II where the Justice Society are, and they're fighting the Nazis. And the Flash can't get back because he and Jay Garrick are in the same place, which makes the Speed Force less strong for both of them. So they're both slower because they have to share it. And then they go off on an adventure where we find out that Aquaman's a Nazi, which is awesome. And he's gonna launch a giant Cthulhu monster on the city, and they all have to stop him.
Aquaman is brainwashed by a guy that wants the Nazis to win so that then he can take over the world. It's not as awesome as Austin is making it out to sound.
No, even just what you just said is awesome.
No, it's not.
Yes.
I thought the villains in this were real lackluster. And I don't know, going to Aquaman, just like with the Flashpoint universe, I thought was a little lame, but
no, of course
okay.
They went to Aquaman. He's the blonde-haired, blue-eyed superhero.
Okay, I mean, fair enough.
No, one of the things that I like about this movie is that it's not actually time travel. It's like a multiverse thing for like everything. So there's stuff that's there.
That's how it's Star Trek 09.
Yeah, no, exactly.
He doesn't just go to the past, he goes to an alternate universe.
Mm-hmm.
That movie doesn't know that's what's happening, but that's what's happening.
Yeah, and I don't know what they do moving forward, but that was the biggest sigh of relief because I don't want to see this Wonder Woman again.
I liked all the cool little subtle tells that you're not in this Barry Allen's past. And what's kind of ironic about it for me is I actually watched the first 25 or 30 minutes of this months ago and didn't get back to it and really didn't like what I saw of it. Mm-hmm. And didn't give it enough of a chance. And when we decided to do this, of course, I watched all the way through it, and it was very different from what I thought I was initially watching. So, like, the things I was originally kind of irritated by, with this being in continuity with Tomorrowverse, is the stuff that ended up being actually really cool tells. Because it's like, wait, so they're not gonna have a... They're not going to have a Dinah Lance Black Canary in present day. She's all the way back in the Justice Society in the 40s. Like, that's a weird choice.
Well, it's cool too to have that because like she is from the Justice Society. Like that's one of those
Right.
things that just comes out of, those comics aren't that far away from each other in the first place. Whereas she's in the Justice Society and then in the Justice League.
Yeah.
So like it was cool to have her here. I agree. And then you also don't have the baggage of, well, now you can't use her moving forward. But I also don't know if they use her moving forward, so who knows?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. But there were just a couple things like that where initially I was like, well, I wouldn't think you'd want to put that all the way back in the 40s. Oh, it's an alternate dimension. It's like he went to an Elseworlds thing. Okay. Like, that's cool.
Mhm. Yeah, and like we're kind of hinting at there being a Clark Kent here too, and then obviously that pays off.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the Shakespeare thing was a reference to. I felt like that had to mean
He's
something.
got the mustache.
Oh, is that all it was?
I think so.
They're very creative with how they nickname people. Like, Barry Allen's from the future, so they call him Future Boy.
He's
okay.
very quick-witted.
Was that supposed to be... Because we... Like, with everything with a sort of time travel... I mean, it is time travel because he's in the 40s, but it's an alternate universe. So it isn't? I mean, that's what's kind of fun about it is the 40s are present day in that universe. Like, time's not moving at a different rate. So if you go there and come back, like, that's when it is. So it isn't really time travel. But, like, with anything that goes sort of backwards in time, we cannot stop referencing Back to the Future. And this does it also. And I wonder if that's why they called him Future Boy, because Christopher Lloyd calls him Future Boy.
Hey, at least we didn't have an entire scene dedicated to... did you know Eric Stoltz was the main character of Back to the Future?
I've got him tattooed on my leg.
Yeah, look at my nice leg tattoo. Oh my god. This is terrible. I feel like Kevin Bacon in Footloose. He wasn't in Footloose. What are you talking about?
Stop! No, I breathed a sigh of relief when it turned out he was in a different universe, and it's kind of funny that I'm saying that because even I'm a little bit tired of multiverse right now, and I've always been kind of a multiverse guy. Even though like comics kind of use it as a crutch too much, and so like I have gotten tired of it there also. But I didn't want to have to deal with all of the paradox stuff with this. Like, I think there is a big mistake it makes at the beginning, which is you get a teaser that's all in World War II period, and it's Roosevelt trying to establish a metahuman team, which is super fun. And then we go into a great opening title sequence that looks like a news film reel from the 40s. And then the very next scene after that, we're in present day with no timestamp or anything. And that immediately deflated me the first time I tried to watch this. Where I was like, oh, I just don't want that. Like, you got me really excited about this period piece, and now we have to do, like, the Krypton thing where, like, the Krypton TV show thing where we can't just make a show about stuff that happens in the past. We have to relate it to present day. I thought that's what we were doing. And then when I got the payoff of, oh, wait, no, he's actually... What is... Remind me, Austin, what is the big moment where they finally reveal it? I can't remember. Because he's trying really hard not to change the timeline. And then there's a big tell that he gets.
It's the Superman thing, isn't it?
Yes, that's what it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's a great moment where he's like, here's Clark Kent. Wait, how's that even possible? And I was like...
And he's like a reporter and soldier in the war.
Yeah, and his value system is slightly different at first because he wasn't raised by the Kents.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's a little more morally ambiguous and...
When I like too, like when he finally shows up, in the battle for Superman, or as Superman, it was giving me flashes to like the kind of Fleischer thing.
Yeah, me too.
Where he's like jumping across the plains.
Yeah, it was great. Well, just Superman fighting Nazis is a great image that we don't get to see a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So no, they totally won me over on it having anything to do with any present day stuff. And I was really surprised by that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the awkward thing, too, with what you're describing in the opening is the elephant of the room thing, which is it's not a Justice Society movie, like really, like
It's not.
it's more of a character-focused Flash movie,
Yeah,
which is what I think they did with Legion as well, because I think that's just a Supergirl
it's a
movie.
Supergirl movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so that seems to just be kind of what they did with these team things.
Well, and they're establishing the idea of the Justice League for the Flash through the Justice Society. So the main characters that really matter in this,
Mhm.
I are Justice League characters before they're Justice Society characters.
Mhm. Yeah, no, oddly, the Justice
It's a
Society.
pre-Justice League movie, is what it is.
Mm. Yeah, and the Justice Society people outside of like Wonder Woman, oddly enough, they're almost like the Howling Commandos in their role, where they're just like the fun side team characters that are there, and like they get like their little moments and stuff. So a little bit
Yeah,
more than like the Howling Commandos or whatever the hell Wonder Woman's Howling Commandos were called in that movie.
yeah.
But like it's that kind of formula, right? But you just like replace regular people with
It
other
is, yeah.
superheroes.
They're there to serve the actual protagonists of the piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're right, this is a character focused story mostly for Flash, but you could argue it's oddly sort of dual protagonist, only in that not even dual protagonist, but just Wonder Woman also gets a character arc, but
She gets
but
quite a
her
bit to
arc
do.
is also there to facilitate Barry's because she has to go through a thing and grow as a person and learn something so that Flash can then do the same thing, and I really liked that.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
like that it wasn't
absolutely.
just she has a thing to teach him. It was
Mhm.
she has to learn it herself first. We see all that happen, and that's about her relationship with Steve Trevor, and I like coming to understand that to live a fulfilling life, and to give people you care about a chance to do the same thing, you have to not only take risks but let other people in your life take their own risks,
Mhm.
and it it felt like a superhero relationship story done in a fresher way than we have more recently, because usually what we do with it is it's just I'm keeping my secret so that I don't get you hurt, and then you get hurt anyway, and so I have to decide if I'm going to tell you my secret or not. And this is in both cases with Flash and Iris and with Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, it's they know who the other person is, but they won't commit to the relationship. And I also like that it's both a man and a woman that won't commit to a relationship. So they don't even make it a gender thing.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing like stereotyped in it. It's just if you're a soldier or you're a superhero with powers, like how do you stay in a committed relationship without constantly being worried that either you're going to get the other person killed, or more likely that you will get killed yourself, and then they have to live on after you.
Hmm.
Never mind the fact that she's sort of immortal, and like they get into that a little bit, but then they have to kind of sweep it under the rug a little bit because like she would way outlive him, but whatever.
Ah, it's fine. um, but yeah, Steve Trevor was weird for me on the first viewing, and a little bit on the second, I guess, because I didn't remember exactly how it played.
Yeah,
Uh, because their Wonder Woman was so clearly inspired by Gal Gadot. The second Steve Trevor walks in, I'm like, okay, well, he's gonna die. Like, obviously, we're gonna copy that beat. And um, my big surprise every time is the best part about how they do it is that they don't get a moment. Uh, I think my favorite part of this movie is that Steve Trevor's like slowly dying, and Wonder Woman like runs out and she sees the army invading, and he's behind her and she doesn't even see him and runs off, and like he dies in the meantime. Like I think that's so much more impactful than if
yeah,
they tried to give them like a final goodbye, like you gotta let me do it, Wonder Woman, you gotta let me do my thing.
yeah. That's a good point.
I thought that whole thing was really well done.
Let's go ahead and do best thing worst thing real quick then.
Yeah, do you want to go first again, or do you want me
Well,
to?
you kind of started it, so why don't you go and do yours?
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll throw that out as well. My worst thing's Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman's terrible in this movie. It's really weird because
Do you just mean do you just mean the performance or the characterization? Because I think the
think
characterization's okay.
I think just everything.
Oh,
I think
really?
everything about her is bad.
You seem to be more critical of what is done with Wonder Woman than I am, just in general. Where like I seem to be much more open to different interpretations of that character.
Well, I think part of it is that there's like two types of ways that we do Wonder Woman, and I think one of them is really bad and the other is really cool. So it's like whenever it's the other one, I'm like, oh, great. And I mean, like,
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? Like, because
well,
I think sometimes maybe I just don't even see what you're
I just
talking
don't really
about.
like the like one warrior Wonder Woman that runs around. That's like just a soldier that runs around with a shield and sword, like killing everybody. Like all of that stuff. I'm like, yeah, this sucks. Like I don't really like any of this. Like that's just not my Wonder Woman.
See, and that's the difference between me and you is I don't think I have a Wonder Woman.
No, for sure. But like when we get to the action scenes and they're just copying the like crappy action scenes of the live action movie where she's running around just like obliterating soldiers. At least here it's in the right war because the first movie does World War One and treats it like it's World War Two. At least this one's actually too. So like there's that, I guess. But I don't know. I don't really like any of that stuff.
Okay.
And
I know we've talked about this a lot, but like I like that movie, so none of that bothered me. But the voice was super distracting.
well, and it's weird too because it's what we've always asked for, which is like, why can't she just be super Greek? And it's like she has like the actress is doing a Greek accent or at least trying, and but like it just doesn't work. Like there's something kind of off about it.
It doesn't sound Greek to me.
Well, and that's the other thing is I find
because
like,
it sounds like Gal Gadot when she's not Greek.
but it's like that. I think part of the issue is that like a lot of people don't really know what Greek accents sound like, and it I think kind of jumps back and forth between like being Eastern European-y to like very Greek to like you can also tell that they made that choice because of Gal Gadot. Like it's really weird. I don't entirely know how to explain it, but it's just I don't know, it's just off. Like it doesn't work.
Well, and it really messed with any chemistry that she and Steve Trevor might have had. For me, like I like all of that on paper, and I like how it facilitates Flash's decision at the end, and like I think it actually works as a good heartfelt beat, and it's not too sappy that he ends up with spoiling stuff, but that he ends up with Steve Trevor's ring to give to Iris. I like all of that.
Yeah, no, all that stuff works. I think. Like I said, the way we handle Steve Trevor is ultimately like one of the better things for me, which is funny because Chris Pine is like the one thing I like in the live action movie. So apparently, I just like Steve Trevor.
Well, and Chris Pine is always the bright spot in bad things he's in.
Except for the second movie, he's really bad in the second movie. But
no, he is. I'll concede to that.
Part of that's just he looks like he doesn't want to be there.
Well, he's playing essentially a non-entity.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay. Like, I wish it didn't come back.
Dude, I couldn't even tell you if he's the actual Steve Trevor or some kind of like, reanimated zombie version. I don't know. You don't know. Who cares?
Yes, who cares is the big part of it. Yeah,
that's the correct answer, isn't it? But anyway, but yeah. So what? Sorry, what's your sign flip?
Oh, it's very similar to the last movie. I think this movie's fine. Like it's okay. It's very light green.
I'm flipping green on this one. And I mean, I'm kind of with you. Like it's not the best thing ever. With these animated movies, but it's a so it's not anywhere near as cool and memorable as Man of Tomorrow, but I was kind of surprised by how sympathetic I found their Barry Allen and how much I cared about his kind of relationship plot by the end. I was really surprised to be as sucked into that and won over by it as I was, and that it was as character driven as it was. So I guess that's my best thing is that we've got a really solid character arc here. Like, it's actually about something. That's nice. I guess my the weakest point, you took the obvious thing, so I'll go to another one because it's absolutely just the choice of what she sounds like for me. But the other thing I'll go to is that even though all the members of the Justice Society kind of get something to do, and Jesse in the comments here also alluded or also mentioned this. We do kind of shaft them, I think, a little bit too much. Like, I wish Dr. Fate had more to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Fate's awesome.
And I also don't love that we go to an Aquaman war again. That's also a thing that I've just gotten really tired of.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for me, because it's like I've seen that.
It doesn't help that Throne of Atlantis is probably the worst of the new 52 movies, at least the ones I've seen.
Yeah, and I haven't seen that one. So, like, for me, it's this, Flashpoint, and Injustice. And both of those are terrible. And this one, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like, he's a Nazi that's got his big Cthulhu monster. Like, that's like a fun, pulpy idea. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know why that didn't do anything for me at all. I think it's because he was mind controlled. So I'm just kind of rolling my eyes at that, where I'm like, okay, so we're doing the Hawkeye Avengers thing again.
But also, he doesn't become a part of the team. Like, the second he gets unmind controlled, he just leaves.
Let me ask you this, though. Given that it's an alternate universe, would it be throwing him under the bus too much to just let him do what he's doing of his own accord?
No, I think...
couldn't we have done that?
Yeah, I agree. Because a lot of the, this is really great that I have for that is from the first viewing, where that's what I thought they were doing.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Let me answer the super chat real quick. Thanks, Senior Sticks. $2 super chat. Doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. He says, I can't pull your review of the Suicide Squad game. That's a big negative. I'm not planning on reviewing that. Nope.
I'll probably play it at some point, but I'm not in a giant rush to get it.
I don't have a current system that will play it, and that won't be a shocker to anybody. Not going to be the system seller for me.
No, the superhero game to beat right now on next gen is RoboCop. It's not Suicide Squad.
RoboCop, yeah. Yeah, and there's a few more coming out over the next couple of years that will add up to the point where I probably will end up finally getting
Yeah, I'm really hoping
at least a Series S.
Cool. We'll see.
See again.
So I'm really hopeful for the Iron Man game. We'll see how that goes, but I hope that's great.
I kind of forgot that was even happening.
Well, because it didn't get a trailer. It was just like, oh, by the way, we're also making Iron Man, so it's probably like 5 years away.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's not like about to come out in a couple of years or anything.
No, like that's probably like farther off than like the Captain America, Black Panther game.
Yeah.
Maybe even Blade. Like I feel like Blade's probably closer than that is.
Well, and the one that's closest is Wolverine, right? Like, isn't that supposed to be actually in the next couple of years?
Yeah, that's like 2026, I think.
Okay.
I can't remember from that leak.
That seemed like the one that was farther along than the others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I assumed that was closer than it actually was when there was that big Insomniac hack. But and there's like a Venom game coming out, but that's like the Miles Morales thing, where it's like not a full game. But anyway.
Oh, okay, sure.
All more interesting things than direct-to-DVD movies.
That's true, but we watched them, and now we've talked about them. And that's what we came here to do.
And that's the end of that chapter.
And eventually, if we get that far, well, I say get that far, I mean, we're jumping around, but we'll even do commentaries on them. And it'll be fun to see how few people watch those videos, but we're gonna make them anyway. What'll be really fun is if we can, sustain ourselves to talk all the way through them.
Yep.
But no, I was surprised to flip green on Justice Society because, man, I didn't like what I saw when I initially put that in. Wonder Woman, I there's a couple of really stupid things with how like Flash showing up there and seeming to come back in time is handled. I He shows up and Wonder Woman's like, Hawkman or whoever, I want you to basically torture him. She's like, make him talk. And then whoever she's talking to is like, why don't you use your lasso?
Yeah, stupid.
Then she just doesn't respond to that and sticks to her guns with the initial order she gave, and then just walks away. And I was like, I don't understand this. Why isn't she pulling out her lasso? And like that whole exchange is just absolutely baffling.
Yeah. No, it's just their take on Wonder Woman's just not good.
But just the logic of that scene is weird. And then the I don't know, like I don't even know how much it had to do with their take on her. It was weird. I just didn't understand why you would ever write a scene like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Where it's like they're putting the reason it's dumb in the scene, but doing it anyway. I don't understand that. And then the other thing is, it's odd that Flash shows up, and at no point does anybody look at his costume and his lightning bolt and be like, boy, that looks a lot like Jay Garrick. Like, why does he also have the same motif that Jay Garrick does? Nobody ever says that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Did they ever talk about that? Like, oh, Barry got the idea from Jay Garrick, like in his universe? I don't think so.
No, the sense I got was there isn't a Jay Garrick in his universe. That was the Flash. I don't know. And then it's weird when he goes, I've already got an alias. It's the Flash. And then they go, well, we have one of those already. And then Jay Garrick just kind of like tips his hat or puts his thumb up or something. And I'm like, that made that whole thing weirder and worse for me, where I was like, I don't understand why at no point Jay Garrick didn't go, why does he have the same motif I have? They should have questioned that, because that's also a big tell that you're not in the same universe. Because if the Justice Society was a secret, if it was a covert thing, then Barry Allen couldn't have been inspired by him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then there's the question as to why there's two Flashes.
I do like, though, when Barry finally goes back, their way of getting him through is that they run together and then Jay, like, pushes them forward. I thought that was funny.
Okay, also real quick, because I should have said this earlier, I also like all the paralleling relationships, and that they're all about the same theme. Because I didn't mention the Hawkman and Black Canary thing. We do it with that. So we have initially a tragic one, and Wonder Woman doesn't, take her opportunity for change from that, and still doesn't, accept Steve Trevor's, advances for marriage, and then regrets that when he dies. And so then, kind of pays that forward with Flash at the end. So I really like the continuity of all of that. And their Black Canary is great.
Yeah, she's really cool. And she gets one of the better action.
She's got the blue lips. I always love the blue lips.
And she gets one of the better action bits, too, where she's, like, running up the Cthulhu monster.
Yeah. Well, they do nice things with the Canary Cry.
Oh, no, they clearly, whoever wrote this clearly was really excited to use Black Canary.
Yeah, somebody loves her. It's great. Somebody on his off hours was playing a lot of Injustice as Black Canary. You could just see it, and you could just tell.
And he just kept spamming the cry move.
Well, I mean, you can't really spam it, because you gotta wait for your power meter to come back.
He found a way, Cap.
Oh,
Life
did he?
finds a way.
Wow. Jeez, that's impressive. It's because he's playing with like a level 30 Black Canary. I don't think he can even go past 20.
Only my Batman can beat him in Injustice is where he's at.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, anyway, anything else you want to say about either of these movies, Austin?
Yeah, they're both fun.
Yeah.
They're both fun enough little adventure movies. They're neither the height of the genre nor the bottom. You watch them and you're like, That's pretty good.
Yeah. I do feel like maybe I was a tad hard on Catwoman just because I do really like the animation and the soundtrack. So I feel a little bit weird flipping it red, but I was bored with most of it.
No, I mean that's absolutely fair. And a lot of the times when you're directly in the middle like that, you're either going to be like, this is fine, good, or this is fine, boring. So,
Yeah, well, and compared to Justice Society, which is not fair, but we're talking about both of these at the same time.
mhm.
I her characterization is really good. I just wish we did something with her. I wish we had some kind of cool arc for her. Because I love
Yeah.
all the Batman parallels without him being there. Like again, how like she refuses to change, and that she's got her her kind of like personal moral code the way he does. Like, these are the lines that I don't cross.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think we're both leaning on the opposite films for their strengths. Where you're leaning towards
Yeah,
Justice Society for its writing, while I'm leaning towards Catwoman Hunted for its animation.
no, that's absolutely right. We're both recognizing what the strengths are, but each of them is appealing to us more, maybe because of just our own sensibilities, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
I just get really excited about a good character focused story.
Mhm.
Because I feel in the superhero genre, I feel real starved for it right now.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair.
So I see any spark of that at all, and I'm like, oh, cool, somebody's thinking. Maybe some characters, or maybe some story choices were made in the course of writing the thing because this is what a character would do in the scene, as opposed to we're just gonna force him here because we've storyboarded it already. Like, it's kind of
Well,
nice to see.
and I'll give Justice Society that is the best Flashpoint movie.
Yeah. Nah, I like Flashpoint Paradox fine. This is probably, at least story-wise, better than that, but
Yeah, I lean on like the kind of fine, boring side for Flashpoint, but and then the Flash movie is just bad.
yeah. We have adapted that way too much now.
Yeah, that's like the Flash story that needs to go away.
And it's turned into the Flash story people know, which is really sad.
hmm
Especially because the cool stuff in the Flashpoint to adapt isn't even the Flash stuff. Like,
No,
there is still
exactly.
a great Flashpoint movie to be made. It's an Elseworld story that has nothing to do with Flashpoint.
hmm
It's just go to that world and tell a story in that world. Because like, I don't know if you have this, but I like that world. I think they could have done like a whole line of comics in that world.
Yeah, I'm like indifferent to it, but fair enough.
Um, because when that was out and I was reading it, I was really liking like the Thomas Wayne Batman stuff and
hmm
the uh and like the Aquaman stuff. I like focusing on him was cool enough. But Citizen Cold, that stuff was great.
Yeah, for sure. But it's becoming Spider-Man has this to an extent now. There's a lot of people that see Spider-Man as just Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
So it's like both of those characters kind of need to get out of that. And obviously, if the Flash has it more so because the Flash really has it with Flashpoint.
yeah. It actually irks me more with Spider-Man just because the multiverse thing is not an inherent like
Mhm.
Spider-Man idea to me. Even though we
Yeah.
have done it a lot with that character even before Spider-Verse, like at least with Flash with the Speed Force, it comes from a thing that is directly connected to that character.
hmm Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and the Flash has been involved in multiverse stories going all the way back.
hmm I do wonder if there's like older Flash fans though that are like, the Speed Force came in during the '90s. Like,
Oh,
why
maybe
is
so.
it? Why is it that, like I'm stuck with just the multiverse Flash thing with that?
But even before that, like I think we still used just Flash running fast as a conceit to get to do time travel and go to other dimensions. But I'm
I'm
not.
sure we did. Like, I'm not super well versed on Flash comics, but
Well, you remember the old popular like Flash of Two Worlds cover.
yeah.
Like we've done that going. What is that, like 170 something? Like that goes
Mhm.
back really far.
Hmm.
And you had lots of crises before Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I think they tended to be pretty Flash centric.
Hmm. Well, I just mean like we added this one thing and like that
Yeah.
kind of took over as like the big thing. That is all I meant.
Well,
more
we
so
used
is
to
that-
need a cosmic treadmill.
Well, now his cosmic treadmill in the Flash movie was that weird dome thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
Unfortunately.
With like horrifying looking CG that we're supposed to just be okay with because it's surreal.
Yeah, they should have called it the Cosmic Hell Mill.
It's like it's like are we really supposed to pretend like it looks this fake like on purpose as a stylistic choice? Okay.
Hey, we got Captain Boomerang in that part, so we got a Flash thing in there.
Oh yeah, that's
in our
true.
Flash movie.
I think it's kind of sad when you have a bunch of really fake awful looking CG that looks like the heads in the time travel sequence in Star Trek 4. Like that's what that scene looked like.
Yeah, what a bad movie. Anyways,
I don't want to be reminded of that. That's the only thing that I don't like in Star Trek 4.
the Flash movie should have just been about the Flash saving the whales from the rogues. I gotta
Yeah,
go back
rip
and
that off before Back to the Future. Go to an alternate universe where it's like, oh, I got a whale tattoo.
the the rogues took all of the whales so they could sell them for money. The Flash just go back in time and save the whales.
Okay, anyway, we're gonna get going. Everybody, thanks for watching, and we will probably do more of these in the not too distant future. I think we'll see what happens. I don't know what format that will take, but anyway, once again, appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. I was Captain Logan. This was Austin, the Day Ghost.
Bye, everybody.
See you, folks.